The galaxy was loud. Stars carried the scars of battles between empires, and planets trembled as fleets crossed the skies. Every few years, a new power rose, and another fell. Yet, among this chaos, there was one world that stayed quiet. That world was Earth. For centuries, Earth had turned its attention inward. While other civilizations built warships and spread their flags across the stars, humans built gardens, libraries, and instruments of learning. The people of Earth believed they had already seen enough struggle in their long history. They chose to grow in peace instead of chasing the endless conflicts of the galaxy. Alien travelers sometimes passed near Earth on their journeys. They expected to see a world covered with fortresses and military stations, the kind of preparation common in a universe at war. Instead, they found oceans full of life, cities shining with art, and children playing under open skies. To many outsiders, Earth seemed fragile. Yet, to those who stayed long enough, there was something unusual about the planet. It carried a calm strength. The other civilizations began to give Earth a name. They called it the Silent Planet. It was not silent because its people lacked voices, but because it refused to echo the noise of war. In Earth's great cities, scientists spent their nights watching the stars. They tracked distant flashes of battles between alien fleets. They knew war was near, but they also knew they wanted none of it. Their telescopes showed them destruction, but their laboratories worked on medicine, clean energy, and ways to grow food from barren land. To them, survival meant building a world worth living in, not one ready to fight. Artists painted murals of galaxies they had never visited. Writers told stories of peace and unity. Musicians created songs that spoke of dreams bigger than borders. Even children were taught that the universe was wide, and that humanity's role was not to conquer it, but to understand it. This way of life was not easy. There were voices on Earth that feared the galaxy would one day turn its eyes toward them. Some argued that Earth should build fleets like the others. But most people answered with a simple truth. If Earth became like the rest of the galaxy, then it would lose the very thing that made it special. One spring evening, a group of students gathered on a grassy hill near the observatory. They lay on blankets, pointing at the stars. One asked why Earth never joined the great alliances or fought for territory. An older astronomer, who often joined the students, smiled gently. He explained that humanity had already fought its own struggles. Long ago, the people had learned that real strength was not in taking but in choosing when not to take. Look at the stars, the astronomer said. Every one of them shines alone, yet together they light the sky. That is how Earth wants to be. We are one star among many. We do not need to burn others to shine. The students listened and thought about his words. To them, Earth's choice no longer felt like weakness. It felt like wisdom. As years passed, Earth's reputation spread further. Alien traders who visited carried back stories of human creativity. Some described the music of Earth as unlike any other sound in the galaxy. Others spoke of the gardens, where plants from many climates grew side by side, cared for with patience. More than one visitor returned home puzzled. Why would a planet so rich in ideas and resources not protect itself with fleets? Why risk staying defenseless? But Earth was not defenseless. Its shield was not built from metal or fire, but from the unity of its people and the depth of its imagination. While empires struggled to hold their borders, Earth held on to something rarer: hope. On quiet nights, when the stars seemed closer, children would hear stories from their elders. These stories spoke of a time when humanity had been divided, when conflicts burned across continents. But in every story, there was always a moment when people realized they could not survive alone. They had chosen to come together. That choice had shaped Earth's future. The elders would say, "We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. But we are the ones who remember. And that is why we choose peace. In the great council halls of Earth, leaders continued to watch the galaxy carefully. They knew one day a test might come. They knew silence could not last forever. Yet, until that day arrived, Earth would remain what it had chosen to be, a place of harmony in a universe of noise. From far above, Earth looked small and fragile, but those who lived there carried a quiet certainty. The world was not weak. It was waiting. And so the silent planet turned blue and green against the endless dark, holding its secrets close. The night was calm on Earth when the first signal arrived. At the observatory high in the mountains, a young researcher named Remi leaned closer to the screens. For weeks, he had been scanning the skies, expecting only the usual patterns of stars. But now, something unusual was pulsing at the edge of the solar system. It was not the natural rhythm of a star, nor the faint echo of a comet. It was something else. He checked again. The signal repeated, steady and deliberate. Remi's heart raced, though he did not yet understand why. He called his mentor, Professor Hawley, who had spent a lifetime studying the heavens. Together, they watched the strange lights dance across the screen. "This is not from Earth," Hawley whispered. "And it is not from the stars. This is a ship." Word spread quickly across Earth's scientific centers. More observatories confirmed the same pattern. Something large was moving near the outer planets, and it was moving toward Earth. At first, leaders thought it might be another group of traders or travelers, like those who sometimes visited quietly. But soon the telescope showed more details. The object was damaged. Its outer hull bore marks of strain, as if it had passed through storms or worse. The ship was silent, giving no greeting. It drifted, slowly but surely, closer to the heart of the solar system. In the council halls of Earth, leaders gathered to decide what to do. Some argued that the ship should be left alone. Others believed that if it was in trouble, Earth should help. A few worried it was a trick, a way for the wider galaxy to test whether Earth was truly neutral. The debate stretched for days, but the ship kept moving. Soon it passed near the orbit of Jupiter. Telescopes showed its surface in sharper detail. Now, pieces of metal hung loose, lights flickered, and parts of its frame spun out of balance. This was no ordinary traveler. It was a vessel in distress. On a quiet evening, families gathered in their homes, watching the news as updates appeared. Children asked their parents if the visitors would be friendly. Some parents said yes with hope, while others remained unsure. For many, it was the first time they truly understood that the galaxy was not as far away as it had once seemed. Finally, Earth sent a message. The words were simple. "This is Earth. We see you. Do you need help?" At first, there was no answer. The ship drifted, silent. Hours passed. Then, faintly, the reply came. The voice was weak but clear. "We come not in war. We come seeking safety." The words were played again and again across Earth. People listened carefully. The voice did not sound like any language they knew. Yet the meaning reached their minds through the translation systems humanity had carefully built over years of study. The visitors were not asking for resources, nor were they making demands. They were asking for help, but the message carried something else too. The tone of the voice was heavy, almost fearful. There was a story behind those words, and Earth would soon learn it. As the ship drew closer, small details revealed themselves. Symbols across its surface showed that it belonged to no great empire known from galactic whispers. Instead, it was a vessel from a smaller people, one caught in the struggles between greater powers. The ship was a traveler's hope, but also a reminder that Earth could not stay hidden forever. In the homes of the silent planet, people began to talk. In markets, in classrooms, and in gardens, they asked the same question. What should Earth do? Some felt compassion. Others felt caution. Yet nearly all agreed on one truth. This was the moment Earth had always known would come. Back at the mountain observatory, Ramai looked at the stars with new eyes. He had always loved the peace of the night sky, but now it felt different. The galaxy was no longer just a distant stage for other civilizations. It was knocking at Earth's own door. Professor Holly stood beside him. His voice was quiet but steady. The silence cannot last forever. The question is not whether the galaxy will come to us. The question is how we will answer when it does. And so, the world watched as the damaged ship slowed near the orbit of Saturn. Lights flickered weakly across its surface. It was waiting. The people of Earth held their breath, knowing that the choice they made in the coming days would shape their place in the galaxy. For centuries, Earth had been the silent planet. But now the silence was ending. The damaged ship slowed near Saturn, its faint lights blinking like a lantern in the dark. Earth had never faced such a moment before. For centuries, its people had watched the galaxy from afar, but now the galaxy had come to them. A council of scientists and leaders prepared a mission. They decided to send a small vessel from Earth to meet the visitor, not with weapons, but with supplies, translators, and doctors. The decision was careful, but it was also filled with courage. Many knew that this meeting could change Earth's place in the universe forever. The ship from Earth reached the visitor after days of travel. Through the windows, the crew saw the foreign vessel up close. Its surface was scarred and broken, as though it had passed through storms of fire. Antennae bent outward, metal plates hung loose, and the glow of its engines flickered weakly. When the docking doors opened, the air inside was thin and filled with a faint hum. The visitors were waiting. They were tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like polished stone. Their eyes were wide, carrying both wisdom and fear. They did not move with the confidence of conquerors. They moved with the weariness of travelers who had lost much. The leader of the Earth crew, a woman named Mara, stepped forward. She spoke slowly through the translator. "We are from Earth. We come to offer help." One of the visitors, who seemed older, answered with a quiet tone. The translator carried his words into the ears of the humans. "You are kind to meet us. We are from a world far beyond your stars. We do not come to fight. We come to warn you." Mara and her team listened carefully. They led the visitors to safer chambers where air and light could be adjusted. As they rested, the visitors began to share their story. Their people lived on a planet called Orcs, a small and peaceful world. For generations, they had tried to stay apart from the galaxy's great struggles, much like Earth. But the larger empires had noticed them. One empire wanted to use their world as a resource station, while another wanted to use it as a base for ships. The people of Aros refused. Both sides doubted first. The empires ignored them, thinking they were too small to matter. But soon, each side realized that even a quiet world had value. That was when the pressure began. Fleets appeared in their skies. Demands were made. When Aros resisted, the war around them grew closer. The old visitor's voice trembled as he explained. "We escaped in this vessel, not to bring trouble, but to bring warning. Your Earth has remained apart, as we once did. But the galaxy does not ignore forever. Already, your silence is noticed. To some, your peace is a treasure to be stolen. To others, your neutrality is an insult. You cannot remain hidden much longer." Mara felt the weight of the words. She looked at her crew, who were silent, each realizing the meaning. For years, Earth had believed that staying quiet would protect them. Now, here was proof that silence alone might not be enough. The visitor continued. "We do not say this to frighten you. We say this because you must prepare. The galaxy is wide, but news travels quickly. Already whispers spread of your Earth. Some call you wise. Others call you weak. You must decide what you will be before others decide for you. Back on Earth, the story of the visitors spread quickly. Through news channels and gatherings, people heard the tale of Orcs. Families discussed it at dinner tables. Teachers explained it to students. Some felt sorrow for the travelers. Others felt worry for Earth's future. But one feeling was shared by many: the understanding that the galaxy would not leave Earth untouched forever. In the council hall, leaders debated. Should Earth strengthen its defenses? Should it seek alliances? Or should it stay on its chosen path of peace, even if the cost was risk? The arguments were long, yet no answer seemed final. Meanwhile, ordinary people began to talk about what it truly meant to be human in a galaxy filled with struggle. Some believed humanity's strength was in its inventions. Others said it was in its art and creativity. Many agreed that humanity's real power was in its ability to unite in times of need. Mara returned from the mission with the visitors, who were welcomed into Earth's care. Doctors treated their wounds, and scholars recorded their knowledge. The people of Aros looked upon Earth with wonder. To them, this blue and green world felt like a reflection of their own lost home. One evening, as the visitors sat with Earth's leaders, the old traveler spoke again. His words were soft, yet everyone listened with great attention. Your planet is still free. That is your gift. But freedom is not only the absence of chains. Freedom is also the choice of how you use it. Will Earth remain silent? Or will Earth speak, not in the language of war, but in the language of what makes you human? The question lingered in the air, heavy and bright like a star. Earth had always been the silent planet. But now, for the first time, its people wondered if it was time to find a voice. The visitors from Aros had been living on Earth for several weeks. They were still weak from their long journey, but they watched closely as humanity began to respond to their warning. Across the planet, conversations grew louder. For the first time in centuries, Earth faced a choice about how to act in the galaxy. At first, fear spread among the people. Families worried that fleets from faraway stars might one day fill the skies. Farmers wondered if their peaceful lands would be taken. Children asked their teachers if Earth was safe. Yet, even with this fear, something else began to rise. It was not panic. It was curiosity. In universities and workshops, scientists gathered to think of new ideas. They did not speak of building weapons. Instead, they asked how Earth's creativity could protect its home. One group studied the way whales sang across the oceans. They realized that sound and rhythm could carry hidden messages. Soon they began designing signals that could be sent into space, messages so complex and beautiful that no enemy scanner would understand them. In art schools, painters and designers worked with engineers. They imagined ways to cover satellites and stations with patterns that blended into starlight, making them invisible to watchers. Children joined these projects, drawing shapes that later inspired real designs. What began as simple play turned into tools for survival. Musicians also played their part. They worked with computer experts to shape songs into coded language. A melody could now carry information faster than ordinary systems. To the untrained ear, it was only music, but to Earth, it was a secret channel of communication. The visitors from Aros were amazed. On their world, survival had meant building ships and shields. But on Earth, survival was woven with imagination. They whispered among themselves, wondering if this creativity was the true strength of humanity. Meanwhile, communities across the planet came together in new ways. Farmers shared food with city workers. Engineers built devices for villages that at once lacked power. Teachers encouraged students to dream of inventions that could help not only Earth, but also distant friends. For the first time in generations, Earth felt completely united. It was as if the warning from Aros had reminded every person of what it meant to be human. At the mountain observatory, Rami and Professor Hawley worked late into the nights. They studied the stars, mapping where the great empires fought and where peace might still exist. "The galaxy sees us as quiet," Hawley said one evening. "But quiet does not mean powerless. Our voice will not be like theirs, yet it may reach farther than theirs ever could." Rami nodded. He had once seen the stars, only as lights to admire. Now he saw them as places where Earth's choices might echo. He believed that humanity could show a different path, one that did not depend on war but on wisdom. In the council halls, leaders listened to the reports of scientists, artists, and ordinary citizens. They saw inventions built not from fear but from creativity. They saw communities grow closer instead of dividing. Slowly, a new idea formed. Earth did not need to become like the empires of the galaxy. It could remain itself and still be strong. One evening, the old visitor from Aros asked to speak to the council. He stood before them, his voice calm yet filled with wonder. "Your people are unlike any we have met," he said. "When others prepare for conflict, you prepare with imagination. You find strength not in fire, but in thought. Perhaps this is the power the galaxy has overlooked." His words carried across the planet. People repeated them in markets, schools, and public squares. The phrase, "strength in thought," soon became a symbol of Earth's unity. Children painted it on walls, and musicians wove it into songs. Humanity began to see itself not as weak, but as something rare. The visitors were not the only ones to notice. Across the stars, whispers spread that Earth had begun to change. Traders told stories of strange inventions, of signals that sounded like songs, and of a planet where people stood together without raising a single weapon. To some, this made Earth seem strange. To others, it made Earth seem dangerous in a new and unpredictable way. Yet, for the people of Earth, the path felt clear. They would not give up their peace. They would not copy the empires. They would shape their own way. On a warm night, as families gathered under the open sky, a group of children asked their parents if Earth was now safe. The parents smiled and answered honestly, "We do not know what the galaxy will bring. But we know this: we are not as small as we once believed. We are strong in our own way." And above them, the stars shone brightly, as if listening. The silent planet was no longer only silent. It was beginning to sing. Several weeks had passed since Earth had successfully passed its first test. Life on the planet began to return to normal, but the memory of the event remained fresh. People everywhere spoke of unity, creativity, and the power of working together. Earth had proven that it could face the unknown without raising a weapon. Then, one evening, a bright vessel appeared in orbit. Unlike the damaged ship from Aros, or the mysterious object of the test, this ship was sleek and shining. Its surface reflected the sunlight in colors that changed like a rainbow. It moved slowly and deliberately, almost as if it had come to observe, rather than intrude. Rami, Mara, and the council were immediately called to the observatory. Satellites confirmed the ship's trajectory and origin. It was from a distant and peaceful system, known among the stars for sending emissaries to worlds. That had shown promise. As the vessel approached, a calm and warm voice echoed through Earth's communication networks. "People of Earth, we have watched your world. We have seen your courage, your creativity, and your unity. I am Nara, the emissary of the Celestian Order. I have come to meet you and offer guidance." The news spread rapidly across the planet. Humanity had already faced warnings and tests, but an emissary meant something new. This was not a threat or a challenge. It was an invitation to learn, to grow, and to take a place in the wider galaxy. Mara led the first team to greet Nara as They entered the vessel. The emissary appeared before them, not in flesh, but as a luminous figure. Its form shifted gently, like sunlight reflecting on water. Its voice was soft but filled with authority and kindness. "You have faced the first test," Nara said. "You have shown the galaxy that peace and creativity can be a power greater than weapons. But your journey is only beginning. The galaxy is vast, and knowledge is its greatest treasure. You must learn to navigate it wisely." The visitors from Aros watched in admiration. "They are different from our people," one said. "Earth has strength in imagination. It is rare to see such courage without fear of destruction." Remai and Mara listened carefully as Nara shared stories of other worlds. The emissary spoke of civilizations that had fallen because they only relied on force. Nara described worlds that had thrived because they valued learning, community, and curiosity. Each story carried a lesson. Strength came from unity and wisdom, not dominance. Nara also spoke of the empires that had tested Earth. "They are vast and powerful," the emissary explained. "Some will respect your ways. Others may try to challenge them. But if you remain true to your path, your people will grow stronger and wiser. You have already begun to show what is possible when a world works together." During the visit, Nara invited young students to ask questions. Children from all over Earth, curious and fearless, spoke freely. They asked about distant stars, other civilizations, and even the mysteries of time. Nara answered with patience, teaching them lessons that blended science, philosophy, and art. For adults, Nara offered guidance in diplomacy and strategy. The emissary did not speak of war, but of understanding the galaxy's many voices. "Listening is as important as acting," Nara said. "The galaxy will always test your mind, and the sharpest minds are those that can understand before they act." The emissary stayed for several weeks. During this time, Earth learned new methods of communication, navigation, and observation. Satellites were equipped with systems to study faraway worlds. Scientists developed methods to detect changes in energy and matter across space. Communities were encouraged to continue building together, knowing that unity would be their greatest advantage. One evening, as Mara and Remai walked among the trees near the observatory, they reflected on the visit. "Nara has shown us that the galaxy is not only full of danger," Mara said. "It is full of knowledge and possibility. We must be ready to learn as much as we are ready to protect." Remai nodded. "Our first test proved we can survive. Nara's visit shows that we can also grow. Earth is not alone anymore. We have friends in the stars, and that changes everything." Before departing, Nara left a message for all of humanity. "Your world has begun a new chapter. Continue to create, to unite, and to seek knowledge. The galaxy watches, not to judge, but to welcome those who are ready. Earth has earned a place among the stars, and its story has only just begun." As the emissary's ship disappeared into the depths of space, people on Earth looked up at the night sky. For the first time, stars seemed closer, brighter, and filled with possibility. Humanity had passed its first test and learned from its emissary. Soon, it would face new challenges, but it now had courage, wisdom, and guidance to meet them. The silent planet had become the listening planet, ready to grow, to learn, and to shine in the galaxy. Earth had changed forever. Months of learning, creating, and uniting had transformed the planet. Humanity had passed its first test and met the emissary Nara, who had shown them that knowledge, curiosity, and cooperation were the greatest powers a civilization could have. Now, Earth was ready for its next step. The Council gathered in the largest observatory ever built. Satellites, computers, and communications arrays were active, sending signals into the depths of space. This was not a message of war. It was a message of voice, a greeting from a world that had learned to think together. Ramai stood before the council, his heart beating fast. "We have learned from the galaxy and from each other," he said. "Now it is our turn to speak. Not with weapons, not with threats, but with ideas, music, and unity. We will show the galaxy who we are." Mara nodded, standing beside him. "This is our chance to invite other worlds to know us, to share knowledge, and to learn. Earth has shown it can survive. Now it will show it can teach and inspire." The message took shape. It included the beauty of Earth, the oceans, forests, and mountains, the creativity of humanity through art, music, and literature, and the wisdom of working together. Symbols, melodies, and colors were combined into a single signal that could be understood by intelligent civilizations across the stars. Every continent participated. Children painted images that became part of the message. Scientists created complex patterns representing the laws of nature. Musicians composed melodies that carried messages of friendship and curiosity. Communities celebrated their contribution, knowing that the planet spoke with one voice. When the message was ready, Ramai activated the transmitter. A brilliant beam of light and sound shot into space, carrying Earth's greeting. People watched together, holding hands and looking up at the night sky. There was no fear, only hope. Far above, distant civilizations received the signal. Some were surprised, for most planets spoke only of power or conquest. Others were curious, eager to learn from this unusual world that had passed tests without using weapons. Stories of Earth began to spread among the stars. Traders, explorers, and scholars shared the news. A planet had risen, not through war, but through imagination, unity, and courage. On Earth, life continued with new energy. Schools taught the importance of working together, of thinking creatively, and of listening to others. Families shared stories about the first test and the emissary Nera. Communities held festivals celebrating Earth's voice reaching the stars. Humanity understood that it had changed forever. At the observatory, Rama and Mara looked at the stars, imagining the worlds that had received their message. "Do you think they will answer?" Mara asked. Rama smiled. "Some will, some will not. But now they know we exist. We have shown that Earth is not weak, and that our strength is in who we are." The visitors from Aros nodded in approval. "You have done something no one expected," one said. "You have spoken to the galaxy not as a warrior, but as a thinker. That is rare and powerful." Days later, a response came. It was not from a single civilization, but a chorus of signals, melodies, and images. Worlds that valued creativity and peace sent greetings. Some offered to share knowledge, some invited Earth to observe distant stars, and others simply expressed curiosity. Humanity had found friends without fighting. The council read the messages aloud. People cheered. Earth had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. It was the beginning of new friendships, new discoveries, and a future filled with possibilities. That night, children lay under the open sky, pointing at stars and dreaming. "Do you think we will meet them?" one asked. "Someday," an adult replied. "But for now, we have shown that being ourselves is enough. We have spoken to the galaxy, and it has heard us." From every corner of the world, voices joined. Together, they sang, they played instruments, they shared stories. Earth had learned that its greatest strength was in its people, their minds, and their hearts. The silent planet had become the speaking planet. Its light, creativity, and unity now traveled among the stars, leaving a mark that would not be forgotten. Earth had faced warnings, passed tests, met emissaries, and finally, it had spoken, and the galaxy listened. Humanity had stepped into the stars, not as conquerors, but as a world that could inspire, teach, and shine. The story of Earth was only beginning, and the universe waited to hear more. The visitors from Aros had been living on Earth for several weeks. They were still weak from their long journey, but they watched closely as humanity began to respond to their warning. Across the planet, conversations grew louder. For the first time in centuries, Earth faced a choice about how to act in the galaxy. At first, fear spread among the people. Families worried that fleets from faraway stars might one day fill the skies. Farmers wondered if their peaceful lands would be taken. Children asked their teachers if Earth was safe. Yet, even with this fear, something else began to rise. It was not panic. It was curiosity. In universities and workshops, scientists gathered to think of new ideas. They did not speak of building weapons. Instead, they asked how Earth's creativity could protect its home. One group studied the way whales sang across the oceans. They realized that sound and rhythm could carry hidden messages. Soon, they began designing signals that could be sent into space. Messages so complex and beautiful that no enemy scanner would understand them. In art schools, painters and designers worked with engineers. They imagined ways to cover satellites and stations with patterns that blended into starlight, making them invisible to watchers. Children joined these projects, drawing shapes that later inspired real designs. What began as simple play turned into tools for survival. Musicians also played their part. They worked with computer experts to shape songs in decoded language. A melody could now carry information faster than ordinary systems. To the untrained ear, it was only music, but to Earth, it was a secret channel of communication. The visitors from Aros were amazed. On their world, survival had meant building ships and shields. But on Earth, survival was woven with imagination. They whispered among themselves, wondering if this creativity was the true strength of humanity. Meanwhile, communities across the planet came together in new ways. Farmers shared food with city workers. Engineers built devices for villages that had once lacked power. Teachers encouraged students to dream of inventions that could help not only Earth, but also distant friends. For the first time in generations, Earth felt completely united. It was as if the warning from Aros had reminded every person of what it meant to be human. At the mountain observatory, Ramai and Professor Holly worked late into the nights. They studied the stars, mapping where the great empires fought and where peace might still exist. The galaxy sees us as quiet, Holly said one evening, but quiet does not mean powerless. Our voice will not be like theirs, yet it may reach farther than theirs ever could. Ramai nodded. He had once seen the stars only as lights to admire. Now he saw them as places where Earth's choices might echo. He believed that humanity could show a different path, one that did not depend on war but on wisdom. In the council halls, leaders listened to the reports of scientists, artists, and ordinary citizens. They saw inventions built not from fear but from creativity. They saw communities grow closer instead of dividing. Slowly, a new idea formed. Earth did not need to become like the empires of the galaxy. It could remain itself and still be strong. One evening, the old visitor from Aros asked to speak to the council. He stood before them, his voice calm yet filled with wonder. "Your people are unlike any we have met," he said. "When others prepare for conflict, you prepare with imagination. You find strength not in fire, but in thought. Perhaps this is the power the galaxy has overlooked." His words carried across the planet. People repeated them in markets, schools, and public squares. The phrase "strength in thought" soon became a symbol of Earth's unity. Children painted it on walls, and musicians wove it into songs. Humanity began to see itself not as weak, but as something rare. The visitors were not the only ones to notice. Across the stars, whispers spread that Earth had begun to change. Traders told stories of strange inventions, of signals that sounded like songs, and of a planet where people stood together without raising a single weapon. To some, this made Earth seem strange. To others, it made Earth seem dangerous in a new and unpredictable way. Yet, for the people of Earth, the path felt clear. They would not give up their peace. They would not copy the empires. They would shape their own way. On a warm night, as families gathered under the open sky, a group of children asked their parents if Earth was now safe. The parents smiled and answered honestly, "We do not know what the galaxy will bring. But we know this: we are not as small as we once believed. We are strong in our own way." And above them, the stars shone brightly, as if listening. The silent planet was no longer only silent. It was beginning to sing.